How good was Joe Montana and Steve Young really? This is a story about a guy named Joe Cool and one of the best left-handed quarterbacks ever. Would you like to meet the two legends who carved their names in NFL history and helped shape the 49ers dynasty? If yes, then you're in the right spot. Montana and Young are a testament to the power of football that inspires and unites the teammates who led the San Francisco 49ers to 5 Super Bowl championships. Before we dive into the mind-blowing success story of these two greats, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Who would know that a boy born in a coal mining town would reshape the dynasty of the San Francisco 49ers in such a remarkable way that people would cheer every moment he played? Joe Montana was born in New Eagle, Pennsylvania, and he belonged to an American-Italian family. He was so fond of playing and taking part in different games like football and basketball that his father taught him to play football at a very early age, and he started playing youth football when he was only 8 years old. And you will be surprised to know that his father listed him as 9 years old to meet the minimum age requirements of the league. So this is where Montana built up his interest in football. Montana attended Waverly Elementary, Finleyville Junior High, and Ringgold High. He helped Ringgold win the 1973 W. Peel Class AAA Boys Basketball Championship while becoming an all-state player. Parade selected him All-American after 2 years as Ringgold's starting quarterback. Montana had an exceptional high school performance versus Monessen, completing 12 passes in 22 attempts, throwing for 223 yards, and scoring 3 passing and 1 rushing touchdown. Ringgold High School nicknamed their football stadium Joe Montana Stadium in 2006. Ara Parsegian was coaching the football team when Montana arrived at Notre Dame in 1974. Dan Devine eventually took over for Parsegian. In 1975, Dan didn't see Montana as a full-time starter, so he wanted Montana to start in the last spring game instead. The win over North Carolina was impressive, though, for Montana. After Rusty Lish and Gary Forrestek, Montana occupied the 3rd spot on the 1977 quarterback depth chart. After winning the season opener, Notre Dame lost their second game, 2013, to Ole Miss. Forrestek had a severe concussion in addition to a broken vertebra and collarbone. Not only that, but it was Forrestek's last game ever. Before Montana's game, Devine reinstated Lish. Despite Purdue's 24-14 lead when Montana entered the game with 11 minutes remaining, Notre Dame prevailed thanks to his 154 passing yards and a touchdown. After the game, Devine designated Montana as the top quarterback on the depth chart, resulting in the team winning an additional 9 games. In a stunning upset, Notre Dame dominated top-ranked Texas with a resounding 38-10 victory in the Cotton Bowl to close out their season. Notre Dame's only championship under Devine came in the form of the AP Coach's national title, achieved through 11 victories and just 1 loss. Joe Montana, drafted in the 3rd round, 82nd overall in the 1979 draft, began his journey with the San Francisco 49ers. Before becoming a household name, he started his first game for the 49ers in 1980. After a few seasons with the 49ers, Montana's talent and leadership started to really blossom as he led the 49ers on the biggest stage in football. On January 24, 1982, the 49ers faced the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pontiac Silverdome in Michigan. Montana led the 49ers to a 26-21 victory, completing 14 of 22 passes for 157 yards and 1 touchdown. The 49ers defense held the Bengals to just 72 rushing yards and forced 2 turnovers. The game was close, with the Bengals trailing by only 5 points with 1:15 remaining. However, Montana led a final drive that ended with a game-sealing field goal. This was the 49ers' first Super Bowl championship in franchise history. After that, Montana led the 49ers to 3 consecutive NFC championship games, 1982-1984. He was named as NFL Most Valuable Player, MVP, in 1982, and selected to the Pro Bowl in the same year. He set multiple franchise records for passing yards, touchdowns, and completions. On January 29, 1985, the 49ers faced the Miami Dolphins at Stanford Stadium in California. Montana had a phenomenal game, completing 24 of 35 passes for 331 yards and 3 touchdowns. The 49ers offense dominated, scoring on their first 4 possessions and building a 23-0 halftime lead. The Dolphins attempted a comeback, but Montana's third touchdown pass sealed the game, making it 38-16. This win marked the 49ers' second Super Bowl championship. Montana led the 49ers to 2 NFC championship games, 1985 and 1988, and was named NFL MVP in 1984 and 1989. He was selected to the Pro Bowl in 1985, 1986, and 1988 and set an NFL record with 32 consecutive regular season games with a touchdown pass, 1985-1987. On January 22, 1989, the 49ers faced the Cincinnati Bengals again, this time at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami. The game is famously known for Montana's iconic 92-yard drive in the final minutes, culminating in a 10-yard touchdown pass to John Taylor with 34 seconds remaining. The 49ers won 2016, with Montana completing 23 of 36 passes for 357 yards and 2 touchdowns. The game was a nail-biter, with the Bengals leading 16-13 with just over 3 minutes remaining. Montana's clutch performance secured the 49ers' third Super Bowl championship. On January 28, 1990, the 49ers faced the Denver Broncos at the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans. Montana led the 49ers to a 55-10 rout, completing 22 of 29 passes for 297 yards and 3 touchdowns. The 49ers offense exploded, scoring on their first 5 possessions and building a 27-3 halftime lead. The Broncos were unable to contain Montana and the 49ers offense, which scored on 7 of their first 8 possessions. This win marked the 49ers' 4th Super Bowl championship and capped off a remarkable dynasty under Montana and coach Bill Walsh. Steve Young. Now here we have another gem in the history of the 49ers, Steve Young. While attending Eastern Middle School and Greenwich High School in Connecticut, Young, who is originally from Salt Lake City, Utah, played quarterback for the Cardinals. In his junior year, Young was honored with the title of being named to the 1978 All-FCIAC West Division First Team. This recognition came as a result of his impressive performance as a starter. In his senior year, Young was selected for the All-FCIAC West Division First Team and CIAC All-State. This recognition came after he impressively rushed for 13 touchdowns. In Greenwich's rush-first option offense, he completed only 41% of his throws for 1,020 yards, while his running game was much more successful with 267 carries for 1,128 yards. Greenwich suffered a crushing defeat of 17-0 against Darien High School's formidable tidal wave defense on Thanksgiving Day 1979. In his senior year, Young co-captained the football, basketball, and baseball teams. His average score in basketball was 15 points per game. The young player had an impressive batting average of .384 and excelled in the outfield, showcasing their skills in the center field. Despite not being able to throw, they still made a significant impact on the game. Young had an impressive performance, finishing with a 5-1 record and even throwing a no-hitter against New Canaan High School. In 1981, Young began his freshman year at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. He was a talented quarterback from Green River, Wyoming, and was recruited by BYU's legendary coach, Lavelle Edwards. Steve is actually the great-great-great-grandson of BYU's founder, Brigham Young. Later in 1982, as a sophomore, Young became the starting quarterback for the BYU Cougars. He led the team to an 8-4 record and a berth in the Holiday Bowl. In 1983, in his junior year, Young had a breakout season, throwing for 3,877 yards and 27 touchdowns. He led the Cougars to a 11-1 record and a number 7 national ranking. A year later, as a senior, Young led the Cougars to a perfect 13-0 season and a national championship, defeating Michigan in the Holiday Bowl. He won the Davey O'Brien Award as the nation's top quarterback and finished second in the Heisman Trophy voting. After college, Young signed with the Los Angeles Express of the United States Football League, USFL, in 1985. The USFL was a professional football league that operated from 1983 to 1985 and was considered a rival to the NFL. Young played for the Express during the 1985 season, leading the team to the USFL playoffs. He threw for 339 yards and 16 touchdowns in 12 games, earning him a spot on the USFL All-Star team. Young's experience in the USFL was a significant stepping stone in his professional football career, demonstrating his ability to succeed at a high level and preparing him for his future success in the NFL. The USFL folded after the 1985 season, and many of its players were absorbed into the NFL through a supplemental draft. Steve Young was selected by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first round, first overall, of the 1985 NFL supplemental draft. The supplemental draft allowed NFL teams to select players from the defunct USFL and Canadian Football League, CFL. Steve Young's time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 1985-1986, marked his entry into the National Football League, NFL. During his 2 seasons with the team, he served as a backup quarterback and punter, seeing limited action on the field. Despite only attempting 138 passes, Young demonstrated his potential as a mobile and accurate quarterback. He completed 53 of 83 passes, 63.9%, for 573 yards, with 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Additionally, he showcased his athleticism by rushing for 154 yards on 21 carries. Although his playing time was limited, Young's performance hinted at the success he would later achieve as a starting quarterback. His experience with the Buccaneers was a valuable learning period, allowing him to develop his skills and prepare for future opportunities. Because of all the chaos surrounding the Express, Young was becoming more and more unhappy. Young issued a stark ultimatum to the USFL just 1 week before the final USFL championship game. Either locate a new owner for the Express or let him buy out his contract and play in the NFL. Young, who had been selected first overall in a supplemental draft of USFL and CFL players the previous year, bought out his contract with the Express and signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers shortly after the league decided to suspend the franchise for the 1986 season. The Bucs were already 12 losses deep into their losing streak when this happened. Both of Young's seasons with the team ended in defeat, as they went 2-14 while he was a starter. Despite completing less than half of his attempts, Young only threw for 11 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. In 1987, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had been struggling to find consistency at the quarterback position, decided to trade Steve Young to the San Francisco 49ers. The trade was a conditional one, with the 49ers sending a second-round draft pick to the Buccaneers in exchange for Young. At the time, the 49ers were led by legendary quarterback Joe Montana, who had already established himself as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Young, who was still relatively unknown, was brought in to serve as Montana's backup and understudy. For several seasons, Young played a supporting role to Montana, learning from him and honing his skills. He saw limited action on the field, but he was soaking up knowledge and experience like a sponge. Young has often credited Montana with teaching him the intricacies of the game and helping him develop his leadership skills. Throughout his 4 years with the team, Young excelled in the role of backup to Montana. In a 41-0 win over the Chicago Bears in 1987, Young threw 4 touchdown passes in the first quarter after replacing an injured Montana. He came on as a second-half substitute for Montana in a 27-10 deficit during their 1987 divisional playoff game versus the Minnesota Vikings. Aside from leading San Francisco in rushing with 72 yards and a touchdown on 6 carries, Young had a solid effort as the 49ers lost the game. He completed 12 of 17 throw attempts for 158 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Young scored the game-winning touchdown on a 49-yard run against the Minnesota Vikings on October 30, 1988. In 1991, Montana suffered a serious elbow injury that kept him sidelined for several games. Young was thrust into the starting role, and he seized the opportunity with both hands. He led the 49ers to several victories, showcasing his exceptional passing accuracy, mobility, and decision-making skills. When Montana returned from his injury, he was impressed by Young's performance and realized that his protege was ready to take over as the team's starting quarterback. Montana eventually left the 49ers in 1992, and Young became the undisputed starter. Under Young's leadership, the 49ers went on to win the Super Bowl in 1995 and he was named the Super Bowl MVP. The 49ers faced the San Diego Chargers at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, Florida. Young had an incredible performance, completing 24 of 36 passes for 325 yards and a Super Bowl record 6 touchdowns. The 49ers offense dominated as they started building a 14-0 lead. In the second half, Young added 3 more touchdown passes, 2 to Jerry Rice and 1 to Ricky Watters. The 49ers defense held the Chargers to just 26 points, securing a 49-26 victory. Young was named Super Bowl MVP, capping off an incredible season where he led the 49ers to a 13-3 regular season record and their 5th Super Bowl championship. Overall, was a showcase of Steve Young's exceptional quarterback skills, leadership, and clutch performances, cementing his legacy as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. He would go on to play for the 49ers until his retirement in 1999, earning numerous accolades and cementing his status as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. The trade that brought Young to the 49ers in 1987 was a pivotal moment in his career, and it marked the beginning of an incredible journey that would take him to the pinnacle of success in the NFL. While serving as a backup quarterback for 4 years, Young completed 23 touchdown passes with just 6 interceptions. Conclusion: Joe and Steve are the 2 greatest back-to-back quarterbacks in NFL history, Montana being the 4-time Super Bowl champion and 3-time Super Bowl MVP, is renowned for his clutch performances, while Young, who is a 3-time Super Bowl champion with 1 championship as the starter and Super Bowl MVP, had impressive passing statistics and accolades that made him a formidable heir to Montana's throne. Both of them cemented their legacies as 2 of the greatest quarterbacks to play in the National Football League. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.